What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist Integrity doing a Metaphys Swordsoul deck profile. So I'm really excited to see you guys because this deck was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Meli. And this deck is an extremely powerful deck to be able to play, to synchro summon into some amazing synchro monsters, while also summoning out your extremely powerful Metaphys boss monsters. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name description in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. And definitely give Meli some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one guys. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Moyi. This card is an amazing 3-of in the deck and one of the best normal summons in the entire build, because if this card is normal or special summon, you reveal a Swordsoul card or a worm monster in your hand to be able to special summon out a Swordsoul token to your side of the field, which is a really cool effect for this card to have because the Swordsoul token is a level 4 tuner monster, making it super easy to go into level 8 synchro plays using that token and your copy of Moyi. And if Moyi is used as a synchro material and sent to the graveyard, you actually get to draw a card, which is a great ability for this card to have. We then play 3 copies of Longyun. Longyun helps you go in for level 10 synchro plays, which is really good about this card. And it's super easy to get on your side of the field because all you have to do is discard another Swordsoul card or one other worm monster to special summon this card from your hand. Then you get to special summon out a Swordsoul token to your side of the field that is a level 4 tuner, helping you go in for those level 10 synchro plays. It also has a really cool ability. If this card is used as synchro material and sent to the graveyard, your opponent takes 1200 points of burn damage, which is a really cool effect. We then play 2 copies of Taiye. Taiye is also a really good 2-of in the deck, and this card is absolutely amazing in this particular build because it has the ability that you banish a Swordsoul card or a worm monster from the graveyard to special summon out a Swordsoul token to your side of the field. But the really cool thing about this deck and why these 2 archetypes work so well together is because your Metaphys cards are actually worm monsters, making it so that you can use them for any of your cards' effects, which is just really cool. Your copy of Taiye also has the ability, if this card is used as synchro material, you can send a Swordsoul card or a worm monster from your deck to the graveyard, which is a really cool ability to instantly get a worm monster into the grave. We then play 3 copies of Metaphys Ragnarok. Ragnarok is a really awesome normal summon in the deck as well, because if this card is normal or special summon, you get to banish the top 3 cards of your deck. And if you do, this card gains 300 attack for each Metaphys card banished by this effect, which is a really cool ability. Plus this card is a level 4 tuner that you can normal summon to your side of the field. It also has a really cool ability. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can special summon 1 level 5 or higher Metaphys monster from your deck, but banish it during the end phase, which is a great ability to instantly get one of our Metaphys boss monsters on our side of the field. We then play 3 copies of Metaphys Nephthys. This card is really awesome as a 3-of in the deck because this card has a great ability. If this card is special summoned by a card effect of a Metaphys card, then you can banish all set cards and set spells or trap cards on the field. And if this card is banished during the standby phase of the next turn, you can shuffle this banished card back into the deck and then add a Metaphys card from your deck to your hand, which can be a copy of one of your Metaphys Ragnaroks, which is a really cool ability for this card to have. We then play 2 copies of Metaphys Tyrant Dragon. Tyrant Dragon is a crazy powerful OTK piece for the deck, and it's a really cool card because it's actually a level 8 monster that we can summon from the deck, so we can step into level 12 synchro plays using the tuner tokens, which is really amazing because we have some awesome boss monsters we can step into in the extract. This card has a really cool ability. If this card is special summoned by the effect of a Metaphys monster, it's unaffected by trap effects. Also, it can attack a monster, and if it attacks a monster, it can make a second attack in a row, which is a really cool ability for this card to have, to be able to attack twice during a battle phase. And if this card is banished during the standby phase of the next turn, you can shuffle this banished card into the deck and then special summon a Metaphys monster from your hand, which is a great ability to be able to just instantly get one of your Metaphys cards on your side of the field, but banish it during the end phase of the next turn. We then play 2 copies of Metaphys Daedalus. Daedalus is really good as a 2-of because this card just deals with your opponent's monsters, because if this card is special with the effect of a Metaphys monster, you banish all other face-up special summon monsters on the field, which is a great ability for this card to have, but you kind of got to watch out for this card a little bit, because if you have your synchro monsters on the field, it says all monsters on the field, not just your opponents. so you have to kind of pick and choose when you summon this card, which is why I'm just playing 2 copies of it in this build. It also has the ability if this card is banished during the standby phase of the next turn, you can shuffle this card into the deck and then banish a Metaphys card from your deck to get the exact one that you want banished, so you can get the effects to roll. We then play 2 copies of Decoy Dragon. Decoy Dragon is super helpful in this particular build because it has a great pendulum effect but a really good monster effect. Then when your opponent or when your monster is targeted for an attack, you can target one of your Metaphys monsters that's banished or in your graveyard, banish this card, and if you do, special summon that monster in attack position, which is a great ability just to be able to summon out one of your Metaphys cards. It also has a really good ability that when your monster is targeted for an attack, you can target one of your Metaphys monsters that's banished or in your graveyard and banish this card, and if you do, special summon that monster in attack position, and during the next time phase of the next turn after this card was banished, special summon this banished card, so you can use this effect over and over again to just keep tagging it out for more Metaphys cards. We then play 2 copies of Necrophase. Necrophase helps out a lot in this particular deck, and I almost played 3 copies in this particular build, but I feel like 2 is totally fine. It has a great ability. If it's normal summon, you shuffle all banished cards back into the deck, and this card gains 100 attack for each card that was shuffled back into the main deck by this effect. And if this card is banished, each player banishes the top 5 cards of their deck or their entire deck if less than 5, which is a great ability to be able to make your Metaphys cards go off. Again, I did consider playing this card at 3 in this particular build, but I wanted to include some other spicy tech cards in this build, so I bumped it down to 2. You can include another copy of this card in the build if you want to though. We then play 3 copies of Apple Dragon. Apple Dragon is a really spicy tech card to be able to work into this deck because this card helps you synchro summon multiple times and is super easy to put on your side of the field because if a face-up non-effect monster is on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand, which is a great ability to be able to use because you're going to have a non-effect monster on the field with the tuner tokens, which is really easy to be able to put this card on the field with that ability. Also, during your main phase, if you synchro summoned this turn, you can banish this card from your graveyard and then special summon out a 100 apples token that's a worm light level 2 to your side of the field, and the player who summoned it can treat it as a tuner for a synchro summon, helping you synchro climb into other cards, which is just really good. This card is an amazing extender in the deck. We then play 2 copies of Bysteel Magnamut. Bysteel Magnamut is really good in this particular deck because just in case any of your Metaphys cards get stuck in the graveyard, you can use the Bysteel monsters to get them out of the graveyard because you banish either a light or a dark monster to special summon this card from your hand, and it's a quick effect if your opponent controls a monster. Now the really cool thing about this particular card is if it's special summon, you can activate this ability during the end phase. You add a dragon monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand, so this card can actually grab Apple Dragon from your deck to your hand. We then play a single copy of Druid's Worm. This card is just really good at spot removing cards off the field, and I love this card in the deck as 1-up because playing these 3 Bysteels in the deck make it super easy to make sure that your copies of your Metaphys cards are not going to get locked into the graveyard. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start off with a single copy of Swordsoul, Sacred Summon. This is basically a monster reborn for the deck, which is why we play this card as a 1-of in the build. And then play a single copy of Gold Sarcophagus. Gold Sarcophagus is really good as a 1-of in this particular deck to be able to banish the exact Metaphys card that you want out of your deck, so you can get the exact effect that you want to with this build. We're then playing 2 copies of Pot of Desires. Pot of Desires is a definite 2-of in this build because banishing 10 off the top of your deck to be able to draw 2 is just really big, especially since we play the majority of cards that we want to see at 3 in this build. With this card, is just really good at getting the exact card that you need from your deck to your hand, being able to draw 2. We then play 3 copies of Swordsoul Emergence. Swordsoul Emergence is basically the Rhoda for the deck because it lets you add a Swordsoul monster from your deck to your hand. Or if you control a Synchro monster, you can add a Worm monster instead, making this card essentially Rhoda for your Metaphys cards if you control a copy of a Synchro monster, which is super easy to be able to do in this particular build. This card is an amazing 3-of in this deck. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're just going to be playing 2 copies of Blackout. Blackout is an amazing 2-of in this build because this card is basically like a copy of Icarus Attack that lets you target a worm monster you control and 2 cards your opponent controls and destroy them, which is a great ability for this card to have to just deal with your opponent's side of the field. We then play 2 copies of Metaphys Ascension. Metaphys Ascension is really good in this deck as a 2-of because it lets you discard a Metaphys card to draw a card, then you can banish a Metaphys monster from your deck, which is a great ability to be able to use with this particular card. And if this card is banished, you can actually add a Metaphys card from your deck to your hand, which is super easy to be able to do in this deck. We then play 2 copies of Metaphys Dimension. Metaphys Dimension helps out a lot in this particular build because if your opponent special summons a monster, you can actually target one of your banished Metaphys monsters and special summon it, but banish it during the end phase of the next turn. And if your other Metaphys card in its owner's possession is banished while this card is already face up in your spell and trap card zone, you can target one card your opponent controls and banish it, which is a great spot removing effect for this card to have. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get in to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with a single copy of Metaphys Horus. Metaphys Horus is really good in this particular deck because depending on what kind of monsters you put in this card, depends on the effects that it gets. If you put a normal monster in this card, this face-up card is unaffected by other card effects. If you put an effect monster in this card, then you can target one other face-up card on the field and negate its effect. But if you put a Pendulum monster in the deck, which we do have with Decoy Dragon, you actually can make your opponent choose a monster that they control and give control of it to you, which is a really cool ability for this card to have. We then play a single copy of the Crimson Dragon. Crimson Dragon is a great card to be able to play in the deck because we actually do play Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity to be able to tag into that card to be able to skip our opponent's turn. This card can also summon on a bunch of other cards in the extract, but this card is really good in the deck to be able to play because you can climb into this card extremely easily. We then play a single copy of Final Sigma. Final Sigma is the card that we usually target with our copy of Crimson Dragon to be able to tag Crimson Dragon out for a copy of Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. We then play a single copy of King Calamity. This card essentially skips your opponent's turn, which is absolutely amazing, and all you have to do is make your copy of Crimson Dragon and Geomathemic Final Sigma, use your copy of Crimson Dragon to target Final Sigma, and then tag into your copy of King Calamity by putting Crimson Dragon back into the extract, which is super cool to be able to do. We then play a single copy of Psychic In Punisher. This card can get really big in the deck and it's just a really amazing boss monster that we can go into. We then play a single copy of Chaos Angel. Chaos Angel is also very easy to go into the deck because we do play the Bysteel monsters and all of our Metaphys cards are actually light, making it so we can get both effects off with this card with a copy of Ragnarok plus any Bysteel monster. But this card is amazing in the deck because when it's summoned, it banishes a card, and if you put light monsters into it, single monsters you control are unaffected by monster effects activated by your opponent. If you put dark into this card, then monsters you control cannot be destroyed in battle, giving you extra protection for your Swordsoul cards. We then play a single copy of Dispatter. Dispatter is amazing in this particular build, and you can summon it off the effect of Crimson Dragon, which is really cool because it does summon dragon monsters. But this card is amazing because it's a walking negate and can also let you target a banished light or dark monster and special summon it back to your side of the field, bringing back any of your Metaphys cards to get a really strong monster on the field. We then play a single copy of Baron de Fleur. Baron de Fleur is great as a 1-up to have as a walking negate. One copy of the Swordsoul Supreme Sovereign. This card gets really big in the deck, and another reason you want to play Desires in this build is because of this card, because it does go up by 100 attack points for every banished card, and makes your opponent's monsters go down by 100 attack points for every banished card, making it so the gap between your monsters gets even bigger so you can OTK your opponent. Also, if this card would be destroyed, you can actually use the ability to banish a card from your graveyard instead, and it has the ability that basically you can banish another card from both your opponent's field and graveyard if a card is banished, which is a really cool effect for this card to have if it's going to be destroyed by card effect, especially with your copies of Blackout. We then play a single copy of the Sinister Sovereign. This card does basically 2,400 points of burn damage, and if you synchro summon another worm monster while this monster is on the field, you can draw a card, which is a great ability. This deck has a lot of draw power. We then play 2 copies of Grandmaster. This card is Walking Effect Veiler, which is really cool because if this card is synchro summoned, you can add to your hand or banish one Swordsoul card from your deck, and quick effect, you can banish a Swordsoul or a Word monster from your hand or graveyard, and then target one other effect monster on the field and negate its effects until the end of the turn. So this card works extremely well with the Metaphys cards to be able to banish them from the grave. We then play a single copy of Starlight. Starlight is to burn for time, and this card is really good as well to board wipe the field, so you can OTK. One copy of Dragite for the spell trap negate, and then finally a single copy of Boxia, and Boxia is really good because you can bounce cards off the field. So that's going to do it with this one, guys. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Metaphys Swordsoul, you should definitely give this deck a try. It's a really fun deck to be able to play, and it's absolutely crazy the amount of plays that you can actually pull off with this particular build. I love being able to just synchro summon into all sorts of different cards, but that's going to do it for this one, guys. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of our notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.